Yo, what's up, guys? This is, of course, your boy Bernie here, along with Pete and Brad.
What's up, Bernie?
What's up, Bernie?
And today, guys, we're going to be finishing up our tier list. Of course, guys, we haven't finished all the NBA teams, but we're here to kind of finish off a couple of these teams in terms of where we rank them. Of course, you guys know, as you can see on my screen here, we have NBA champs, NBA playoffs, league pass worthy. It's a mid-off, and of course, lottery bound for those teams that are trying to get the ping pong balls to get some of the best players in the draft. But without further ado, let's move over to the live scene and finish this off and just kind of talk about what teams are where as of right now. NBA champs, we have the Lakers so far. Playoffs, we have the Cavs and the Sixers. Pistons are in league worthy. Bulls, Nets, Raptors, and Hawks are all in the mid-off. And lottery bound, we have the Jazz, Blazers, Hornets, and Wizards. Let's move on to, I would say, maybe the most interesting team just because they're in a state of finishing off their dynasty and looking to move on in the next couple years. I got the Golden State Warriors. I think we should talk about them because I really don't know what to make of the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, this video at the time of recording of the 1st of October, Draymond Green is going to be out for several weeks, I think 3 to 6, due to an ankle sprain. So it's going to be interesting to see, who takes his place and what happens there, just from preseason perspective. And I think he will obviously he'll be missing the first week of the NBA too. So, I want to open up to you guys. Like, where do you see the Golden State Warriors in this list?
You're not wrong, Bernie. This is a super tough one to gauge. Like and I think their recent history shows it. Like, only a few years ago they were so bad, and in the lottery that they got the 3rd overall pick, right? Obviously made the wrong choice. Or was it the 2nd overall pick? Excuse me. They took James Wiseman, one of the worst picks in recent memory. But then the year after they win the championship, right? I kind of feel like we're in that wait and see stage with this team. Like, what even is this? I do think that Draymond injury is not small news, right? If they're announcing right now, this early, before, right before preseason, right before the season starts, that he's out 3 to 6 weeks, it must be a high ankle sprain, right? Something like that. Definitely not just some basic sprain, right? Dude is 33, 34, and he's been slowing down the last couple of years. I'm not saying he's bad. He was one of the better defensive players in the league last season, but this is not small news for this team either. Like, they definitely are going to have to think about this. I'm just not sure about their roster, guys. Like, I don't really like a lot of their young dudes. I feel like a lot of the writing is on the wall with a fair number of these dudes, and they just haven't necessarily, like, it's been so hot and cold for, like, the Moses Moody's and the Kumingas of the world, right? Their value isn't really there. They've just held on to these guys to the point where now it's up to them to either turn it around or, what these dudes are is very much up to the Warriors at this point to determine. So, man, I can't put them in the mid-off as long as they have Steph, like, playing as just out of his mind as he has the last, I should say the last couple of years, his whole career, but especially, like, last year was one of his best seasons ever. And I feel like it got under talked about just because the Warriors were in such, like, a tumultuous state, but he really was, like, it was rare form even for Steph last season. So I can't put them in the mid-off just because of how good Steph is. I'm done slandering Steph at this point in my life. I did it long enough to know that it's a fool's errand to continue doing so. So I don't know. What do you think, Brad? Before we put him anywhere, what's your take on this team right now?
I mean, yeah, it's tough to really rank them because their main guys are all old. So, and we just saw Draymond get hurt, so we're gonna see them deal with injury problems. But they all know how to play. So if they're playing, I think like that core of Clay, Draymond, CP3, Steph, Wiggins, who can inject some young energy, I think they would win a lot of games just because they know how to play. So I want to put them in a playoff team tier, but like, yeah, those injuries, I don't know, man. Chris Paul, Steph's been dealing with more injuries lately this as he gets on the back end of his career. And like you said, they're young guys, like they just have no value. So I don't even know how you turn them into positive pieces, which you need. I feel like Kuminga still has value just being a lottery pick.
He
And that's my
does
guy
of all of them. Yeah, he does of all the guys.
Yeah, but like Moody, they killed his value, even though he showed some stuff in the playoffs. Steve Kerr just has a tough time letting young guys get a chance, honestly. So
Yeah.
shout out Walker Kessler. But
Yeah, unless they're generational and carry him to the legacy that he has now, like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green.
exactly, yeah.
Shots
But yeah,
fired.
I'd mark them down to win a bunch of games, honestly. I think people are maybe a little too down on the Chris Paul trade. Their second unit will be better just off of that, and that was their biggest problem last year. So if you can fix that, they still won 44 games, not being able to win a road game at all. I think they can be a pretty good team and fun to watch.
Yeah, the one thing I would say for this team, if they were smart, they should. I know that Trailblazers Drew Holiday trade is a different video. But that being said, with that in recent history, we should still keep it in mind. I do think if the Trailblazers are open to moving Robert Williams, that they need to call. They need to make a phone call and try and get a
Absolutely.
center and just get some defense on this team. Like that's the I'm the one thing I would say I'm really concerned about for this team, and I say concerned. I'm not a Golden State Warriors fan, so like honestly, they can suffer as far as I'm concerned. But that being
Damn.
said, if I was a fan, I would be worried about Andrew Wiggins. I think last season was pretty concerning, and I know a lot of it was off the court stuff, and I'm not trying. I have honestly no idea what it was. I don't really care to research that kind of stuff. Um, but even when he played last season, he was not as good as he was there the year before when they won the finals. And mind you, that could have just been all part of the same thing, distracted off the court stuff. But they need him. I mean, he was literally their second best player to win a championship, in that championship run. So if he is not that guy, and that was a flash in the pan, like he was just channeling the best version of himself there for 6 months. This team is really in deep trouble because that's just not going to fly based on their roster and just the makeup of the team. But
Yeah.
they're this is a weird comparison, but they're kind of where the Lakers were like at the beginning of last season. Like they're old and you can see the runway to a championship, but it just seems kind of out of the realm of possibility based on how old they are. But a few moves and this team is genuinely right there. Like there is some stuff on here that I talk guff about their young dudes, but there's some of these guys I do like. Like they got Pajemski, that their draft pick is like super perfect as far as the fit is concerned. He was the 19th pick in the draft. They got Usman Garuba off of free agency. Like these
Love
are
that
young
signing.
dudes. I love that signing. He is a defensive menace if he can
Mhm.
actually get minutes on the court. He's huge too.
Yeah.
Um, there's stuff like that I like, but honestly, and Brad, this is going to be music to your ears. I think it's up to Steve Kerr to have a really good year of coaching. And I think that is genuinely up for debate if he can do that at this point. Like, I would love to see him actually, like, not just rely on Steph and, Draymond and Clay to pull them out of this. Like, they can't do that anymore. Those guys are all in their mid 30s. They've all had a bunch of injuries. It's time for Steve Kerr to actually like pull his weight and do some creative coaching here and get these young dudes to,
Mhm.
Yeah.
do some interesting stuff for these guys.
Yeah, I think the biggest worry for me for them is going to be Klay Thompson. I think he's lost his step, and is not like not the defensive guy that I think he once was, in my
Oh,
opinion.
certainly not. Yeah.
And
I do think he got way better last season as the year went on, but you're
Yeah.
not wrong.
But they need him to be that defensive. They need him to be a two-way guy, but he's just not a two-way guy anymore, like he was back during those championship runs. So I think what it sounds like for me is that I think all three of us have them in NBA playoffs.
Yeah, I think they have to be. If Steph is coming into the season healthy, they have to be.
Yeah. And we'll see what happens. Let us know in the comment section down below. Warriors, are they finished? Are they Wallahi? Or are they still are they
They-
are they NBA champs in the making?